I'm David Hunt and welcome to The Art Hunter. What is art? We know it's in the eye of the beholder, and the many forms of art, including sculpture, which has gone through the ages. Just look at Michelangelo's statue of David. Love it, and like the amount of time and effort that goes into that. Sometimes very special events happen, and in the sculpture world, and this is one of them that we're going to be talking about today. And I'm talking about something that's really, really special. And I'm so pleased to have with me today agents of art, Mariella and Adrian. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
Hi,
Thanks, David.
Hi.
So before we get into big sculpture St Kilda, because there's so many elements of it, it's not just St Kilda, that it's been in other places, but it's coming up, and this is being recorded before the actual exhibition opens, so we can't talk about the winners at this stage. But Adrian, let's start with you. Like, who are you in another life apart from being a workman on the site at Veg Out?
Yes, you can see we're wearing our uniforms today, David. Well, I'm a sculptor and a master printmaker, and I've had a life in education, and I've done a lot of curating and fundraising in the arts. I run or co-manage and founded 2 print studios in Melbourne, one in Sunshine Print Art Space, and another in Seaford, Boldface Fine Art. I have a sculpture studio in Seaford too, that I share with Mark Stoner. And I've been involved in the arts in St Kilda, where for the past 20 years. And I say I came from the UK 20 years ago. I say I landed in St Kilda and I've never moved.
Hey, I get your drift there. Okay, over to you. Like, what's your background?
Well, I was an art student. I graduated and I did several other things, as you do when you're an art student. I went and lived in Berlin for about 6 years, just before the wall came down. Came back to Melbourne. I had a couple of children, and I just started curating art exhibitions, mainly in St Kilda.
Right.
And I help artists put on their exhibitions. I do whatever needs to be done, including the whole curation part and hanging shows and things. Or if they just need someone to do their media or releases and things, I do that as well. So.
Because that's a really important part of an artist, and a lot of artists, well, a lot of them can't afford to pay publicists or whatever, and like might be putting it on in a small gallery, so therefore needs the expertise of somebody like you. It's really interesting. We were talking off camera about how the general public don't realise how much time and effort goes in to putting on an exhibition. So what you're doing there is wonderful.
Thank you.
We take this, the big sculpture exhibition takes an enormous amount of effort, and going back a number of months, years even.
Yeah. Well, like, because you wouldn't turn around to a sculptor and say, like last week, can you get something for like this big sculpture exhibition at the Veg Out Gardens? It would take them years, wouldn't it?
That's right.
The artists themselves may spend up to a year in making the sculpture.
Yep.
But if we go back to the original big sculpture in 2019, Mariella and I initiated that from the very start, and that involved all the writing of the documentation, all the artist agreements, all the arrangements for the executive at Veg Out Community Gardens, absolutely every bit of paperwork that's from the very ground up and right through to exhibiting. And it's an enormous. It was a lot easier this time, don't you think?
It was, yeah.
So what does it mean to an artist to be part of an exhibition like this? And the other side of it is there's prizes involved as well. But with a lot of them, it's not so much about the prizes, it's being part of an exhibition.
Yes, well, it sort of is about the prizes because, it helps, and we've built on our 2019 Biennale. The prize money's gone up everything's bigger this year. There's more sculptures. We've got a better catalogue, bigger catalogue. So everything's, things are building up. So I think to an artist, it's we mix up the artists. So we've got a lot of higher profile artists and then some more up and coming ones, and we've mixed up and had as many different types of media used. So there's a lot of variety in the show.
Well, I've just walked past and seen just a few. It's so different to each other, and that's the important thing about art, isn't it? Is it, as I said in the beginning, it's in the eye of the beholder, but the artists have so many different thought patterns, don't they? Well, look at the art that surrounds us here as well.
And that's one of the exciting things of being doing the curatorial aspect of this, is bringing together a number of different artworks and then, of course, placing them in an extraordinary, wonderful place that is like an exhibition of flora, edible flora in its own way, but it really does involve bringing great art and a wonderful, unique community space together and making them work well. And I think that's what makes it super special as a show.
Well, let's talk about the garden, because for our viewers that haven't been to the St Kilda Veg Out Gardens, it's a community garden and it's placed right opposite Luna Park. In a prized position. It used to be the old bowls club, is that right? Lawn bowls club.
That's right, yeah.
And it's been around for years, and there's all, they've created a lot of their own little sculptures anyway, haven't they? With a saucepan, like nailed to the top of a pole or something fun like that. But then there's, over in one corner, there's all these shells used to create like castle fairy world that's there on a permanent basis. Or was that part of another exhibition, or did somebody just build that?
No, one of the gardeners, who's an artist, James Cattell, he built that, over several years. Yeah.
Right.
It's beautiful. The kids love it. Well, the adults love it as well.
Well, I love walking past it all the time. And the other wonderful thing is the club rooms are over in the far corner. They're used now as artist studios. Adrian, is that right?
That's absolutely right. There's 16 art studios there, wonderfully supported by Council of Port Phillip, City of Port Phillip. And I was very fortunate to have had a great sculpture studio there for 3 years, and that adds to the creative drive of the space. And I often speak about, when I was there, the love and joy that comes in from all the gardeners into your studio space and fires you up as an artist. And makes it a very special place to work as an artist.
But would it be a little bit annoying because the gardeners have their downtime and they wander in and start talking to you when you're concentrating on what you're doing, or is it nice relief?
Oh well, good point, David. And I think this digs into the centre of what we're trying to do with big sculpture at Veg Out, and that is engage with the community. And as an artist, I love to engage with the community. I love having members of the public and gardeners come into the studio space on Farmers Market Day. My door was open and we'd have 50 people through.
Yeah.
And that for an artist is gold.
Yeah.
I mean, because people might even want to buy some work. But as a fundamental, as the point of departure for the big sculpture, St Kilda Biennale, it's all about bringing art to the heart of St Kilda.
Yeah,
great art.
Great art. Yeah, well, that's a good point as well. Apart from the saucepan being nailed on top of the stick. But what about the garden? Do you have to be extra careful that you're not? Everyone's got their own little plots, that you're not intruding and stamping all over their precious little piece of garden. Yes,
well, we don't, and most of the the designated areas for the sculptures are not in the gardens. They're in the outer areas. Like there's a lawn. We've got several pieces on the lawn. Round about this time of year, there's a few spare plots, so we might be using those.
Much rain this year.
Maybe. Yeah. So we're able to use the plots that are And you know, one of our committee members has given us a plot to put a big rocket sculpture on by Craig McDonald. So yeah, I think that it's a mixture of both, but we don't really interfere with the plots at all.
Yeah,
no.
I'm sure you don't. But it's good to hear that story, that there's not this conflict, that they're not happy or anything like that. They would love it, wouldn't they? Because it would bring more people into the garden. So, what, you know, like I did ask a question before, but what is it like for an artist, a sculptor, to be part of something like this? You know, like where they're meeting other sculptors, because a lot would know each other, but there would be others that wouldn't know each other, and forging that friendship or a relationship at least, and reaching the general public, because the last one you did there in you know, like a few years back got a huge crowds, didn't it?
It did. We had over 3,500 documented visitors.
Right.
2019, but many more that came in and we didn't catch their names or any of their details. So we estimate at least double that. And we offer that to the artists engaging with the show. Big public exposure. Yep. But also, and of course many of the artists have heard of one another, and it gives them an opportunity to get to meet one another, and it brings about a collegiate sort of feel to the place, apart from the putting art in the community. But the other great thing we offer the artists that exhibit there is that their work will be seen by senior members of the art establishment. And this year, for the main judge, we have Professor Callum Morton from Monash, and the first show we had...
Yes, we had Max Delaney, CEO from Australian Centre for Contemporary Art.
Right, ACCA,
Yep.
And that makes a great, a really positive thing for the artists to feel as though their work is going to be witnessed and seen by you know, big players in the arts world.
The big problem with the arts world, as we know and hear about it, and it's been such a tough time for the arts because of COVID, is the money side of it. You know, like with you guys curating and you know, finding the artists, finding their spot in the garden, but there's also that side of it of looking for the money, you know, like getting the money. That's a task in itself, isn't it?
For the artists?
No, for you guys, finding the money.
Absolutely. Although we have the very generous support of Vegout executive, they have provided the main monetary prizes.
Well, where do they get the money from?
Well, I think they have operate the farmers market, and that money's come through there, and good donations.
Right.
Look, they have been very generous in providing that 2 years in a row. But we have two other prizes, of course. One is through the Fundere Foundry in Sunshine, and they are offering a $2,500 bronze fabrication prize, and the other prize, of course, Mariella, is
Etainment and Joy FM.
Yay!
Yeah.
And you have offered, and we are really thrilled about this particular prize, that it will be awarded to a mid-career artist, and will really help boost their profile by being interviewed by you and having some footage that they can use on their social media.
Yep.
That's a fantastic thing, and comes in kind value of $3,000. That's significant.
Yep.
But we will need, and we are looking to gathering corporate sponsors and individual sponsors for the future, because if we want to grow, if we want to invite and get new artists and bigger sculptures, we need to build on the prize pool. Yeah,
because getting those bigger sculptures mean it takes more machinery and whatever to get it into the space, doesn't it? You know, it has to arrive on a truck, it has to have a crane or whatever to position it. So that's all money as well, isn't it?
It is, and we know, we often talk about how much work, and we've talked with you about how much work goes into a show like this, in the in this background or in the preparation. And to do the catalogue, if we had money to help finance that, or have a designer come in and work, that would take 8 days solid work out of our schedule.
Yeah.
So we could devote to other things.
Yeah.
So people might like to feel as though they can support us in that way too.
Yeah. So apart from the St Kilda big sculpture, it's not just, big sculpture is in other places as well. Tell us about the history there.
Shall I start with the South Melbourne market? We did a gig there earlier in the year, involved 4 large sculptures by sculptors, 4 sculptors presenting 4 works. There was a work by Mark Schaller, there was a work by Paddy Behrens, there was a work by Victoria Jost that was a digital based artwork, and there was a work by myself. That was given and afforded by the generous grants from the City of Port Phillip, and we had that initially in the South Melbourne market for 4 weeks, but it was so popular, David, so popular with all the visitors from the store owners and the management that it was extended by a further 2 weeks.
Fantastic. So that will come back again.
Well, I'm not sure whether we have that opportunity again unless we again have get funded for it.
Yep.
But it was a very successful show.
Yeah.
The big sculpture organised.
And what else have you done?
Well, we did a show in West Melbourne at the One Star Gallery earlier this year as well. We had 17 or 18 artists, and they were small sculptures on plinths. So we do, a lot of the sculptors do smaller works as well as larger works, and a lot of them do other things as well, like paint or print make. So, yeah.
We want to promote them in every way we can.
Yeah.
And as we say to the sculptors, and it comes through our long experience in the arts, how do we support the artists, the sculptors, as best we can? And again, from my personal experience, I know how difficult it is to drive 150 kilometres to deliver a half a tonne stonework and then drive home again for nothing.
Yep.
Or bring your work over to a gallery in another part of Melbourne and present it, and we present it as best we can, and to entirely support those artists. And in that way, if we can, as Mariella said, promote them, support them, publicise the work, but also make it easy for them. I think that's something we are very conscious about.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does help them, because they're concentrating on their art, let alone all the other aspects of it. So here you are. You're ready. It's now being installed. You've got the clothes on to tell us that. Give us an idea of some of the sculptors that are part of this exhibition prize.
Well, you start off, Mariella.
Oh, well, for a start, we've had Paddy Behrens in there doing an ephemeral work, and she started building that. She's built using a plot. She started maybe 2 months ago, and bits of it are being built, created in her studio, so that those pieces will be brought down and added. So that consists of clay, twigs, and feathers and things like that. That's going to be we don't really know what that's going to look like until it's been made, but
and that will break down in time.
That will break down, yeah. And she was speaking to us yesterday about how the the ground will be yellow with streaks of clay once it's rained, and it's like, oh yeah. So she's good at involving the public in participating actually in the sculpture itself. She'll have it's an unusual piece. It'll have a QR code, and that will go to quite a complex series of images and a breakdown of how the sculpture's been made. So that's an interesting one.
And in a way, that's also that describes something that we're both really interested in doing, is taking a risk. I mean, it is a chancey thing. And the chance aspect of this has been the atrocious weather.
Yes.
Bullets. But, I mean, that's hindered Patty quite a lot.
Yep.
And Patty we came across when Big Sculpture was invited to judge the Toorak Sculpture Prize last year. And we saw a lot of wonderful sculptures there. And then we saw Patty's, which were really delicate and fibrous and insubstantial in many respects, and we thought that's the one we're going to award the major prize to, and that raised a lot of eyebrows. But we're willing to take that chance, and I think we have to be willing to take chances to do something exciting. Yeah,
because I was actually thinking that when it's breaking down and people come in a couple of weeks into the exhibition. And all of a sudden it's breaking down. People going, "No, that's a load of crap," which art's in the eye of the beholder. But that's a delicate one as well, isn't it? When people, because people, some of these behind us now, people are going to look at them and go, "Wow!" But something like that, it's the general public don't have that insight that you guys do.
That's true, but that's part of what bringing great art to the community is. And in the curatorial welcome, we talk about one of the great opportunities there is for the art to start a conversation. And if you come across a piece of art, and there's Patty's, and there's a fabulous piece of work by Mark Stoner, made up of a number of cast concrete tiles that looks like a arid landscape from above, and the great big carved wooden works just recently finished, so you probably still smell the scent of the cypress plant. All these things, if they start a conversation, or whether it be, I don't know whether that's art, or maybe it is, or that's amazing because it smells great, or look at the colour of that, or look at the texture of that marble against the colour of the cast concrete, or the shimmering nature of the stainless steel there catching the light, or the pink of the polycellular pink that you took a picture and posted on your Instagram site today. If these things start the conversation, then it's worthwhile.
Absolutely, it starts. Name a few others that are part of it.
Well, we've got one of the key things we want to do also is get a sort of gender parity, and that's difficult, isn't it, Mariella?
It is, yeah.
It's difficult, but we really work hard to it, and encourage there to be an equal number. We have improved upon the 2019, so now it's about 60-40%.
Right. Okay.
But some of the women sculptors, I think you could talk about that, Mariella.
Okay. Christabel Wigley. I just love her work. It's so beautiful. She's exhibited in Mont Alto, and she's in the Bondi Sculptures by the Sea this year. Beautiful wooden work she's got in, which is like and with a painted black and white geometric pattern, and that's quite a large work.
I think it's actually right behind you as we speak. Yes.
Yes. And then we have Sonia Pays as well, who's exhibited in every major sculptural exhibition competition over Australia. Beautiful head that she's done, which she's known for. We've got and then the fanciful work of Alona Herriner there, a sort of I don't know, kind of Hansel and Gretel type figure carved out of one piece of wood. I find that fascinating. Out of one piece of wood, what happens if you go too far and go yep, and you cut cut it in halves or something?
Often
you cry a lot.
They say I'm a reductive stone sculptor myself. often that leads you somewhere that you would never have dreamt of going before.
Right,
So
it becomes a whale instead of a human or something.
embracing the accident, David, that's what it's called.
Yeah, because I've actually asked you on radio, you know, like the statue of David, which I mentioned in the opening, you know, like, where do you start? You know, like, what do you do with a huge piece of marble that was hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and the basic tools that Michelangelo would have been using? Where do you start?
Well, you've got to start somewhere,
yes.
And if you know, that's what is extraordinary about people, the great artists, the great Renaissance artists and post-Renaissance artists like Michelangelo and Bernini and Canova, and they are extraordinary artists. To do the most difficult thing, in my opinion, my humble opinion, to sculpt is the human form. Not because there aren't a myriad different types of human form and every one of them is beautiful, but it's so difficult to carve that form out of a single block. And sculptors who work in that way think that you always think about the width and the height, but your mind also has to be constantly thinking of what's behind the sculpture too, because every part you carve away at the front informs the back.
Right.
So you've got to think of the whole entire thing. Now, Michelangelo working from one single block to create something as masterful as the David, you've got to be thinking of a million things at one time, because what he might carve, and particularly because of the perspective aspect of it, looking up, what you carve at the top may affect the toe down at the bottom. That's huge.
Yep. Yeah, it is, isn't it? And I've just got to mention the fact that, and I've only found out when you walked in today, that I know one of the sculptors that is actually happening, Fred White, has got a piece. And it's wonderful, and it excites me, you know, like being an art lover, that somebody that I know has got a piece, and who I've supported him with interviews over the years, that, you know, like, all of a sudden he's got a piece in a show like this.
Yes, yeah. Fred is, came across Fred at the Turak show. Loved his small work, a beautiful, highly coloured plinth-based work. We exhibited that and we sold that work for him.
Right,
it was
wonderful.
A great thing for an artist.
Yeah.
And but Fred has been working as a sculptor for many years and has won some very significant awards and accolades.
Yep.
We're very happy to have him in this show
again.
And
what is it? It's a cape?
Cloak.
A cloak?
Cloak, yeah.
And it will blow in the breeze, will it?
No.
No?
The opposite.
Oh.
He's a metal.
Well, that's what I thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Knowing that, I thought,
He's very graphic.
Very graphic.
A very graphic welded metal piece.
Right.
But I think it's a delightful, and we thought long and hard about where it could best go, and I think we've got a wonderful spot for it. We'd encourage everybody to come down, because you come across Fred's work and there it is, suddenly understated but elegant, standing there, and you can see through it and see the gardens behind it.
You can really appreciate it.
Yeah, fantastic.
Beautiful.
Now, there are, you know, the major prizes, but then there are also prizes by the general public. Tell us, when are they all happening?
Well, we'll be having volunteers manning the gardens and handing out how to vote forms and the catalogue. And so towards the end of, when we've accumulated enough votes, so towards the end of the exhibition on the 27th of November, there will be an open day, and the Gardener's Prize and the People's Choice Award will be awarded on those days.
Right.
Yeah, on that day.
So everyone, when you go down, make sure you pick up one of the forms and enter for your favourite sculptor.
There's a fabulous place to actually place your voting form.
Right. Did you design that?
No. I only wish it was an unnamed designer from some time before that one of the artists at the community gardens brought over to the gardens from the St Kilda playground, and it's a big one of those clowns with the open mouth.
Oh, right, yeah, like the sideshow.
Yes,
right,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that will be there. You won't be able to miss it. You can place your form, your voting form in there, and it will be announced the winners of those, and that's $1,000 each. The Gardener's Prize and the People's Prize will be announced on the 27th, the open date. Everybody is invited on that day.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for all your time and effort with what you've done to make this this big Sculpture St Kilda Biennale 2022 actually happen. People like you, I take my hat off to you, because if it wasn't for you, this wouldn't happen. So thank you and congratulations.
And thank you for supporting us, David.
Thanks.
It was my pleasure.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
You've been watching The Art Hunter. I'm David Hunt, and we'll see you again real soon. Go and check out the exhibition.